Thanks for joining us for the Member xCite presentation. The Member xCite presentation is informative, interesting to the audience, and showcases the strengths of the presenter as an entrepreneur and their area of expertise. It's not a sales pitch, it's a 10-minute educational and insightful exploration into what they do. And of course, it's exciting.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our xCite presenter today, Steve Gregory from Black Bolt Performance Group, to present to us on conscious leadership. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Steve Gregory.
Many people actually talk about servant leadership, and that's a very strong part of conscious leadership. So sit back, enjoy the next 10 minutes or so. We'll go through how we look at conscious leadership. And at the end, if you've got any questions, please feel free to ask. So let me just share my screen. Right. Can everybody see the screen? Terry, maybe you can be.
Yes.
That's
yes.
Okay, cool. So as I said, this presentation is about conscious leadership, and it's our approach. So if you've never heard, if this is the first time that you're hearing about conscious leadership, what is it? So it's a new style of business leadership. We're very used to the command and control, which just doesn't work anymore. And I have my own reasons why I think that is, but that's a topic for a different day. So it focuses on a culture of we rather than me, which basically means rather than leaders focusing on their own KPIs and their remuneration and their status and their power, they put the focus back on their people. And it was first created by a fellow called John Renesh, San Francisco based. He was the one that actually coined the term of conscious leader in Getting to the Better Future, A Matter of Conscious Choosing. Great book. So it's a move away from traditional and intimidating forms of leadership towards integrity, unity, and trust. In contrast to traditional leaders who spend years building resumes, acquiring wealth and power, and playing politics, this new breed of managers understand that a conscious style of leadership will result in both higher performance, which also impacts higher profits. So conscious leaders are defined as those who inspire and bring out the best in those around them, foster transformation, and manage beyond conventional profits. They embrace a role to serve the purpose of the organization, to support its employees, and to create value for the company stakeholders. And again, a lot of the literature that I see on leadership assumes that leaders are the ones that are poor and need improvement, and that all the employees are wonderful little saints. I know from my 30 years that one of the biggest challenges of leadership is managing people, and not managing the great people because they're easy to manage, but it's the things that you can't prepare for. It's the people who have malicious intent, who are looking for financial advantage. They're the ones that really challenge leaders. So if you're focusing on conscious leadership, you're able to address some of those behaviors as well. For anyone in my generation, you'll remember the robot out of Lost in Space. So when it comes to leadership, are you lost in space? As I mentioned before, is leadership something that you've fallen into? Is it something that you aspire to? I know from my experience that talking to a lot of people don't set out to necessarily become leaders. They set out to have a job and build a life and create a nice environment for themselves. And sometimes people can actually find themselves in a position of leadership with no training. So research out of the UK shows 58% of managers say they didn't receive any management training. And just think about the uncertainty and the ambiguity that brings to leaders when they're thrown into a leadership position. They've got their own universal fear of being judged and wanting to be liked and wanting to belong. And they're not really prepared to do that. So for a lot of leaders, it's trial by fire, baptism by fire, just learning as they go. So I'd ask you, each of you today, whereabouts are you on your leadership journey? And sometimes people just think of leadership as business leadership. It could be community leadership. Most people on this call will have their own businesses, but for employees, it might be a local not-for-profit. It might be some form of hobby group, but there's different points of the journey. So, are you at a fork in the road? Have you got decisions to make on whether to go for promotions, whether to change organizations? What's your career path looking like? Or is it a roadblock? Are you in an organization? I've had a client in Pennsylvania recently who is a fantastic employee, does everything right, but just can't get promoted. And he's now looking to leave the organization because his senior management just aren't giving him the opportunity. So he's feeling roadblocked. Is it a dead end? Have you, I know when I started off in accounting in Australia, if you weren't a manager by the time you were 28, you wouldn't be a partner by the time you're 32. And if you weren't a partner at 32, it wasn't going to happen most likely. So you need to look at different firms. So perhaps you're at a dead end. Or maybe it's a crowded road. Maybe there's lots of people jostling for leadership positions in your organization. So there are all these different points. No leadership journey is the same. And everybody faces different challenges at different points in time. And as it says here, wouldn't we all want to be on the fast-moving highway, headed in the right direction to our destination? No blockage, no challenges. And it's a bit naive to think that's going to happen. So you're part of the challenge of being a leader is to remove obstacles from our path. So to shift from where we are to where we want to be, we must have a clear path and take action. Because if we don't have that, how do we ever expect to get anywhere? So in being a leader, we need to look at who do we need to be, what do we need to do, and what do we want to have? That's called the be, do, have model in coaching. So who do we need to be? Who do we want to be? What do we need to do to be that? And what do we need to have in order to do that? So our 3 steps to conscious leadership is, first of all, understanding your business DNA. The conscious part of leadership means you're actually thinking about everything that you're doing. You're aware of everything that you are. So it's understanding your business DNA, how you're wired, what's your thinking style, what's your behavioral profile, what are your sales competency? In our model, we measure 18 unique sales competencies to identify where you are in sales. A lot of people will judge themselves as good or bad in sales based on their experience and results. If they've had great experience and great results, they'll class themselves as a fantastic salesperson. If you had a negative experience and not the best results, you'll want to shy away from sales. And again, sales doesn't have to be selling products and goods. It's a mindset. We're constantly selling ourselves. From the moment we're born, we're at school, we have friends, we're in families, we have relationships, we have ideas to sell. So understanding how you are wired for sales can actually improve results. And then we look at emotional intelligence, because there are a number of building blocks as we'll look at in a moment. And emotional intelligence is key. You see a lot of leaders who are very arrogant, and that comes from low self-esteem. So understanding yourself and understanding your impact on others is really important. And then all leaders need coaches. I'm a leadership and performance coach. I have my own coach as well. So, and coaching helps identify your strengths, your gaps, and your stretches. And pardon the typo there. So with strengths, you would like to be able to play to your strengths all the time, but sometimes that doesn't happen. If you imagine baseball, you can't demand a particular type of ball to be thrown to you all the time, to be pitched to you. So great to know your strengths and great to be able to bring those into play when you can, but you don't always get that opportunity. So understanding where your gaps are and help trying to close those gaps, and understanding where your stretches are and being able to lean into those and grow are really important things. So step 1, I talked about the DNA for business. So it's our behavioral profile, it's our thinking style, and it's our sales competencies. And I love this quote from John Quincy Adams: if our actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you are a leader. So again, a lot of people don't think of themselves as leaders, but just have a look in your own environment and see where you are leading. It might be leading family members. It might be leading friends. If you're the person that's always working out where to go, what to do, you're leading others. And that's the key essential part of leadership is a leader knows where they're going, and other people look to that leader. And if they want to go in the same direction, but aren't confident they can get there by themselves, they'll want to follow. And we need both leaders and followers. Sometimes there's a lot of pressure for people. Some people don't want to be leaders, and that's fine. Leaders need followers, and there's no good, bad, right, or wrong. It just depends on the context and what you want for yourself. I talked about the building blocks of emotional intelligence. So there's 4 different areas in emotional intelligence: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and relationship management. And so under self-awareness, we're looking at our emotional self-awareness. Under self-management, we're looking at emotional self-control, our adaptability, our achievement orientation. And on social awareness, we're looking at empathy, organizational awareness, and relationship management, influence, coach and mentor, conflict management, and teamwork. So they're all the different things that we look at in working with people on emotional intelligence. I talked about coaching. So again, it's about identifying what your strengths are so that you're aware of them, working on those stretches and narrowing the gaps. And as Jim Rohn says, a good objective of leadership is to help those who are doing poorly to do well, and to help those who are doing well to do even better. A rising tide lifts all boats. So, again, some people aren't quite aware of what coaching is. We've got a number of coaches in the room today. So everyone can do some coaching. It doesn't matter where you are in life. It really depends on what you want to achieve and having someone there to help you get there. So that's a quick presentation today. I'll now close that down and return to any questions.
Fantastic. Okay, do we have any questions from the floor? I know we've got a couple of coaches on here today, so I'm sure we've got inquiring minds. Any questions for Steve, or did he cover it all brilliantly? There you go. Okay, Janet?
I thought that was really good. Thanks, Steve. It was, I love the using the word stretches, because a lot of clients and people in business talked about them as challenges and problems and issues, but referring to them as a stretch, so that they could relate to that physically, as well as not just getting overwhelmed mentally, that something's too hard for them or difficult for them. I like that terminology. Thanks.
Great. Thank you for the feedback, Janet.